What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be installing the Bonamici Rearsets. I believe the Bonamici Rearsets are the best option for the RSV4 or the Tuono 4 if you're looking for GP shift, which is these rear sets. The reason is there is a design that only Bonamici makes them this way, and to me that's super important. I will show you what that is once I put them on the bike. Before I install them on the bike though, let me show you how they come in the box and how to put them together. Okay, so this is what you're going to get in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4 packets with all the parts. So let's unwrap these so we can start putting the rear sets together. Okay, to put the rear sets together, you will need a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6 millimeter Allen. I'm only using these for demonstration purposes. I'm going to use a ratchet to put them together properly, and I will also be using blue Loctite, which I'm not going to use right now, also for demonstration purposes. There are instructions for it. I'm not going to go over it. I'm just going to start putting the rear sets together and show you how to do that. Now for the first part, you'll see this. This is a exhaust hanger, which I'm not going to be using because I have the GP22. This also comes with it for the exhaust hanger, and 2 of these bolts come for the exhaust hanger. I'm not going to use these either. So now we can start putting everything together. I will start with the right rear set, which is the foot brake. And for the right side, we will use the shorter foot peg. The longer goes on the left side, which is the gear shifts. So we'll add these 2 for that. I'm not going to use them yet. Okay. So first thing we need to do is install the brake foot lever. To do that, first we're going to remove this, and I'll show you why. It is important to remove this first because if we don't, we won't be able to install the spring, and I'll show you how to install the spring. To remove this, we'll use a 4 millimeter hex. Put this aside there for later. And now we need to put this lever on the rear set. For the right rear set, we're also going to use the longer bolt to go through. The shorter goes on the left side. And before we install this on the rear set, actually we're going to install this, and there's a reason for it, because if we install this later, we won't be able to install the screw behind it. This is also a 4 millimeter. Can take this screw, place it here, and then screw over there. And now we're not going to install this here yet because it's important not to, in order for us to put the spring. So I'll put this here also for later. Okay, next step will be to take this spacer, washer, the longer bolt, which we're going to install it through the foot peg. But before we do that, there's a 6 millimeter cap here. We can just do it with hand right now. Just gonna remove this, but this is a 6 millimeter to remove it and tighten later. Also leave it on the side for later. Place a bolt inside. And this is a 5 millimeter bolt. I'm just gonna use a 5, put this through. Put the washer there. And this is going to go through here. There's also a spacer over here that we need to keep in place. Bolt this through there, and this will attach right here. But before we do that, we need to install the spring. Now, how do we do that? Okay, we keep this on the side. There's the spring. You will see a tiny hole over here, small nuts that not like the spring goes in here, and then you'll see one more here that it will go in there. So the goal is to align the hole through the bolt while putting it in, and see how close this is over here. That's why we had to remove this part here, which it's the adjuster of the distance for the brake lever or where you wanted to sit. So it's so close that for us to pass it through here, we had to remove it. So let's install this. So you see one is over here, the other one is underneath. Just hand tighten for now over there. That way the spring remains in place. And now the tension, see, it won't let it go down. And the reason we had to remove this is because this path is so close from here, it won't be able to go through. So once we keep this here, this is how we install this. This is the 4mm. This is how you create the stop, so the brake lever won't go up. And also we're going to have to adjust this to the right angle and tighten it. So this is good to go. Once this is complete, now we can install the foot peg here, and we'll use a 4mm to remove this. This will have to go from the back. Right, there you go. And then you can adjust this distance once it's on the bike. This cap can go back, which is actually metal and not plastic, because I have seen most of the rear sets that manufacturers make, these are plastic. This is actually metal. You put this back. And now this will be for the brake switch, which will go over here at the back. This will actually have to go on the bike later, once we remove the brake switch from the stock rear set. This is a 3mm. And these two small screws are there to secure the brake switch on here. So basically this will go here, and the brake switch, every time the brake lever will be pressed, the switch will be deactivated, and then we'll click up and down over here. I'll show you this when it's on the bike, but for now we can just place it over here. And you can also adjust the height to fine tune it later on the bike. There you go. And this will have to be fine tuned on the bike by placing the brake switch here. Last but not least, this cotter pin here will go through here using the stock rod from the rear brake cylinder. This will go through here. And it will be bent so I can secure it in place. I'll show you this after on the bike. And I think we might have to replace this. I'll see when we're on the bike. For this one, we're also going to be using these two spacers and these two screws that will go here for the cylinder. Basically, spacer will go here. And the cylinder will be there, either there or from the other side. I'll have to check it on the bike, but this is for that. And this concludes the right side of the rear set. Now for the left side, it's the same procedure for the lever, but we do have a 4mm hex bolt that will put this there and create the pressure to keep it in place. But before we do that, we're going to install same, which will be a 4 right here. Screw it. Same process for the rear. You can adjust the distance. This is ready. Now for this, we're going to use a 3mm to remove this screw, and there's a spacer underneath it. There you go. Spacer goes right here. But before we place the spacer, we will install the shift lever. So you can actually adjust positions for this because it has not just like a gear in. So we're just going to randomly place it here. We might have to adjust once it's on the bike. But once you fine tune it, then you're going to take the 4mm and tighten this so you can keep it in place. And above it, then you'll place the spacer and the 3mm. There we go. This is actually much more simple because the next step will be to install the rod for the gear. For this, we're going to use this screw and the thinner spacer. So basically screw first, then spacer, then screw this in. Now again, we'll fine tune it later on the bike. We may have to use this instead of the top. This is actually a 5mm. All right, there we go. And last will be the foot peg, which is the longer one. We have to remove Again, the cap for this. Place a screw, also 5mm. And this goes directly to the rear set. Place a cap above it. And it's good to go. Now for these screws that are left, for this and this spacer, in the instructions it says that it goes at the end of the shift rod. I'm not sure where, I'll check it when it's on the bike, but I don't think there's anything there to use this. We'll find out. And these four, I believe they're just replacement for these two and these two that attach on the base of the rear set. All right, so super simple to put together. Now what I'm going to do is remove everything again and install it by using Loctite 242. This is blue Loctite, and torque them with the right torque, well, meaning by hand, and go on the bike and install them on. All right, so before you install the rear set on the bike, we're going to remove the stock rear set. Before we remove these two 6mm bolts, we're going to break loose these 4mm hex. Only break them loose, you don't have to remove the cylinder yet. Break them loose right now, so it's easier once the rear set is removed. All right, and next we're going to remove these two with a 6mm. We still have the bracket here from the exhaust. Okay, now I'm going to have to remove the master cylinder and the brake switch underneath over here. Okay, behind the rear set, you have to remove this clip over here, right there, that holds the rod. Right there, we're gonna remove this clip here. Now the rod is free. And now we're gonna remove these two 4mm, and the cylinder will be free completely. There you go, we're gonna keep this cylinder right there. And the next step is to remove the brake switch here. For this, we're gonna use a 4mm. Right here, there's a 4mm hex. Okay. Okay, so I actually thought that we'll have to remove the spring to remove this, but you don't really have to do that. I can just remove this with a 10mm because you have to do this anyway. So you have to remove this nut. Once you remove this nut, this should be able to come off from the back. Push it through there, pull it out, so that we're not going to use this again. We only need this, and now this will fit through it without removing the spring. Okay, so now that the brake switch is loose, we're gonna use this part that came with the rear set that goes here in the back, what I installed just before. I'm gonna install it up here first by removing these Phillips screws. Like this. Screw goes in between. All right, now we're going to tighten them. with a Phillips screw head. That's good to go. Like this. This will go under here on the rear set. And it will also go in this notch, in this gap in there. Be in there. Right there. All right, we'll put this here on the side. We're not gonna install the rear set yet because we need to prep the master cylinder. What we need to do for the master cylinder is that if we put the rear set here and we thread the cylinder here, the rod is too, if you see from this side, it's too tall. So the holes don't align. It actually has to be there, lower. So because they don't align, they provide a shorter one that we'll have to replace. Okay, here we're just gonna pull this over here, just out there. Leave that there. See how it's shorter? The silver screw is shorter. There you go. So we're gonna replace this with that. Now we're gonna have to insert this in here. To do that, we'll use some silicone lubricant for the master cylinder. Right here, just like that. And thread it in. Make sure you get some there too. Now the tricky part will be that you have to pass the rubber boot through this notch over here. To do that, you have to squeeze the rubber boot. There. Push it in. Okay, so this, I actually had to turn the video off to do it. You're gonna have to use a pick to put it in. There's no other way, because for the front master cylinder, I could actually do it with just my fingers. For this one, I had to use a pick. Okay, now that the master cylinder is prepped, we're gonna put this aside over here, and I'm gonna install this underneath. Before we do that, I'm gonna prep the screw that goes here with some blue Loctite. There you go. And this will go underneath and inside here. Be very careful with this because it breaks very easy. So you can even hear it. It's gonna be 3mm. There we go. There, perfect. We're just gonna have to adjust the height for this. This can be adjustable based on where your lever will be, because if you drop your brake lever too low, then you're gonna have to raise this higher. For now, it's good there. And now we can install the master cylinder, but to do that, we have to remove the guard, which is a 3mm hex. Okay, and now we can install the master cylinder here. Okay, it turns out that when I tried to install the rear set, I couldn't, because I installed the brake switch in reverse. So basically what I had to do, I had to do the cable from the outside, like this. Not like that, but like this. I'll have to install it again back in. Okay, I actually encountered another challenge. Even with installing this at the right angle, when I was about to install the rear set, this was not long enough for the bolts to align here. But I figured out the solution. You have to remove the panel from here and trace the wire over here. If you pull it, you'll see this is a cable here. So it's clipped with a zip tie. So if you remove it from the zip tie, right there, you can create more length. There you go. So now over here, now this is longer, so you can adjust it. So don't cover this yet. Once you install it in the rear set, you can pull it back up and adjust the length. So you'll have to trace a cable from the back in order to install the rear set. Okay, so now that it's long enough, we can actually align it. Before, because this was way too short here, I wasn't able, the cable wouldn't let it align, and I would put too much pressure here. So by releasing this cable over here, you can actually pull it and align it. And once this is here, you can grab this cable back and adjust it back in place here. All right, so now let's install the master cylinder. Okay, now we're gonna install the master cylinder to the rear set. We're gonna use the screw provided and the spacer. And for this, we're gonna use a 5mm hex. Okay, just enough so it threads. And then we'll do the next one. I'm not going to tighten completely yet, so we can thread this here. Right there. All right. Now we're going to insert the cotter pin over here for safety, and then adjust it. Perfect. All right, now you can thread the cotter pin over here, just like that, and then push one there, and one on the side, just like that, so it doesn't go off, and then you're gonna push it all the way in. I'm not gonna go all the way in right now because I'm gonna remove this again so I can adjust it. I'm not gonna adjust it right now, I'm just gonna leave it as is and install the 6mm bolts here. All right, all good to go. All right, now that we finished the right side, we're gonna do the left. This should be way quicker. We're gonna start with this 5mm hex, removing the shift rod arm here. All right, then we're gonna break loose these two 6mm. It just saves so much time. There you go. Don't let it drop because it's still in here. Now all we need to do is disconnect the shift rod just to break it loose. There you go, that was it. We can leave this here for now because we're gonna attach it to the new rear set. Okay, and this is gone, just like that. All right, now we're gonna take the Bonamici rear set. What I'm gonna do is thread this over here. Just to start it. Over there. Gonna thread this here. Over there, so we can align the rear set there. Going to fine tune it later once the rear set is on. So basically to fine tune this, obviously like in a shift rod, you're just gonna turn it right here to bring it, the lever to your desired position. And once you find your position, you're just gonna tighten this there with a 10 millimeter, just a little bit there to keep it in place. But there is a, I don't want to say minor issue. Well, I'm gonna call it a minor issue because I have the carbon covers. The rod hits on it. So I'm thinking two solutions. One, I either cut the carbon cover completely here, which I don't really want to do because this is going to expose the frame and it's not going to match, or I may just add spacers here. So there are already two spacers here on the rear set, one for this and one for this screw over here. So I'm thinking maybe if I add longer spacers and I bring this further out with a limit, of course, because I can't bring this too much out, because if I do that, then this is not gonna latch over there. So if I push it too forward, it hits. So I'm gonna have to figure out a solution there. Okay, I actually figured out a solution without using spacers, without cutting this carbon frame. The secret is that you have to use the perfect distance for this shift rod to create a specific angle here at the rod arm. And then what you need to do, as you see here, the shift, the foot lever is way too low. So what we're gonna do is remove it and then raise it up. But you cannot fine tune the brake lever based on the position you want it. You have to first fine tune the shift rod and then remove the brake lever and put it back in place exactly where you want it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. All right. So basically you're gonna remove this and bring it to the position you want it. We have to go on the bike, feel it, maybe you have to adjust it again. I'm gonna leave it here for now. And then if you notice this right here, this angle, you have to create this angle exactly here with the shift arm to the shift rod. The reason is, if the angle is not right, the distance between the rear set and the rod will touch here in between when you make the shift. See, because when you lift the lever up, the rod goes closer to the rear set. So what happens is, if this is too short, when you do this, this rod will hit here, it will bend it up, it won't work. So you have to fine tune this first and then figure out the position for the brake lever. All right guys, install is complete. They look amazing. They look beautiful. It's crazy how much of a difference rear sets can make to complete the looks of the bike. Okay, so now I said that I chose Bonamici for a very specific reason. What is that reason? Okay, so almost every, if not every, manufacturer that makes reverse shift or GP shift for the RSV4, they don't put this shift rod behind the heel guard. They all put this bracket right here. So the problem with that is that this shift rod is actually right in front of the foot peg. So when you take a turn, or when you take a left turn actually, and you put your boot up here, it actually pushes the shift rod down, causing the shift arm to push down. Now, it doesn't affect it in any way. It's not like it changes gears while you do that, but it does put pressure under my boot exactly right here, and it's super annoying for me. Now I understand that for most that doesn't even matter. I have extreme OCD, so that alone bothers me so much. I tried at least 5 different manufacturers, and by trying, I mean I sat on the bike and I tried the bike with the rear sets. I was fortunate enough to be able to hop on 5 different bikes with 5 different rear sets. Great manufacturers, all amazing products, but for some reason, they don't make it like Bonamici. And for this reason, I vote my favorite rear sets for the RSV4 Bonamici. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.